Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Spartan Nation Radio. We now bring in our old pal, Spartan Nation, longtime contributor, legendary State of Michigan prep basketball and football coach, the great coach Chuck Grenier, for our good, bad, and ugly with Spartan football segment. Coach, I guess I want to put this all in perspective. We said 3 weeks ago we both thought they were going to lose the next 3 games, and they did. But I want to go back to early this year when Spartan Nation was by far the first to write the rumblings inside the university that D'Antonio was going to leave. We started writing that after the Red Box Bowl. Then we took a lot of criticism. People said, oh, you're just trying to stir trouble, whatever. Now we're here. We're seeing that a lot of what we said was accurate. Michigan State is getting hammered in recruiting. They are really struggling because every recruit I talk to is being told he's not coming back. Does Mark D'Antonio owe it to his current players and owe it to his recruits in the university that has made him a wealthy man to come out and make a definitive statement on his future?
I think so. I think that's so vitally important right now because of the way that the team is playing, offensively especially, that things look pretty bleak in the future. I think it's imperative that he comes out and makes a statement that he's leaving and that the university, the athletic administration, get on their horse and they start looking for a replacement, a notable replacement, if he is leaving.
Coach, hold on, we're losing. Coach, you're going in and out. I'm sorry, what?
That the administration, it's imperative that they make a statement if he is going to retire at the end of this season, that a name is placed out there to turn this recruiting debacle around. That the state of the offensive side, especially in football on the team, is so poor at this time. A name has to be out there. It has to kindle new fire into the program. The recruits have to know who is coming in, and it's got to generate some kind of excitement to turn this around, because otherwise the impending doom, if you want to put it that way, this cloud over the program is so devastating right now. The program, the offensive side of the ball is so low right now. The recruiting is going so poorly. Something has to be done. If he's going to be coming back, say so. If he's not going to be coming back, say so, and let's get something started to turn this around.
Coach, I got so many areas I want to go to here with you. I want to make this point. I understand why Spartan fans are frustrated. It was back in 2016, you may remember, that Spartan Nation on our television show asked Mark D'Antonio about an email we got from a factory worker that said if I had performed this poorly, this was after 2016, I would lose my job. And D'Antonio chose not to fire any of his staff. And when I asked him that question and read him that email, he said, well, I would hope if he had had a great career, they wouldn't fire him after one loss. And I told D'Antonio that was a great answer. I thought that was fair. But we're 4 years later still asking the same questions. Then you know the question I asked that he thought was a dumbass question. I spoke with an NFL general manager who told me since the game that it literally looks on Michigan State's offense like no one has a clue what they're doing. Players, coaches, or anyone else. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I think so. I think to a degree I do agree with that. You see, and I've been one of them that have kind of talked about maybe we got to get our quarterback in there. We got to get our second quarterback, third quarterback. We got to get some kind of reps for them in the game. So if something happens, they have to replace a quarterback, the most important part of the offense, of course, that they have some game experience. And you saw in this game and game before where a quarterback has come in and they just don't know how to run a team on the field in a game-like situation. And it's also during the course of the game, I thought this thought too, that when you recruit a player, my thoughts anyway, when you recruit a player, that they come in to the system, and after a short period of time, when they learn the book, they learn the plays, the call, the nomenclature, all that other stuff, they should be able to fit right in right away and play. We see this with other teams. We played Arizona State, and they had a freshman quarterback, a freshman left tackle, and an 18-year-old or 19-year-old center at that time. These young kids should be able to play. I really don't see that. And when they come on the field, if they're not running the patterns right, if they're not following the blocking procedure right, if they're not throwing the ball to the right person, I just don't see where the people that they're recruiting are being taught adequately that they can come in and that next man up attitude is not there. They just don't seem to have those players ready to perform at the level needed when they come in. So I don't see that kind of coaching going on where you're coaching to replace players, because they're only there for 4 years, 5 years at the most.
I want to go on to a different subject, and we're kind of up against a time frame, so I want to be careful here for a minute. I am careful. You have been with me many, many times at practices and games. True or false?
True.
You've been with me when players, coaches, and everyone talks to me.
Yes.
I was stunned at how many players and coaches. My son Duffy was working with me at the game on Saturday. Talked to me, texted me, called me. I believe it's worse inside the building than I've ever thought it was. And I'm stunned. I am more convinced. Here's the amazing part. My son said to me when we got home early, I think it was early Sunday morning by the time we got home, and he had seen multiple players and more than one coach talk to me. And he's like, Dad, is it rotting? He goes, it's one thing to lose. He goes, but it sounds like it's rotting. How concerned are you about what's inside the building even being worse than what we see from the outside?
I think a couple of weeks ago when I was on the show that I mentioned something about that when we were talking about the transfer portal and the 6 players, 7 players going into the transfer portal, that it seemed to me at that time that it was more, not so much of the winning, losing, and the playing time as there was a problem inside the locker room. I think there's a real problem in there. I think it's really getting chippy. Offense against defense, because the offense just isn't producing. I think it's taken a toll on the defensive mentality. I think it's a real problem inside the locker room.
Coach, I want to just, because I'm close to it. I'm not calling you out. I want to tell you why I disagree with what you said just a little bit. It is not. I have not heard one defensive player angry at offensive players. But I have heard a lot of offensive players and defensive players angry at the offensive coaching and the head coach. I've never seen that before. I find that fascinating. Do you find that fascinating?
Well, I'm not saying that the defensive, let's say a defensive lineman pointing a finger at an offensive lineman saying, do your job. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the frustration that defensive players would have against the offensive players, offensive coaching, the entire thing of offense, of not doing the job, not getting the first downs, not getting the scoring in. I think that wears on them mentally, and it just gives them a sense of, we have to play to a 0-0 tie in order to be going. We have to have a perfect defensive game, and that's the way that I'm seeing it as a spectator sitting on the outside. I know you're in the inside, you have those connections, but what I'm looking at is it has to be wearing down the team mentally that way.
I'm going to tell you this. Here is a good concern that I have. I am concerned at some really good players considering transferring now that aren't in the portal, that they look at the future, and it's very concerning. Coach, last question from you, and I want to get it going because I think this is important. To me, and I'm close to this, the only thing more screwed up than Michigan State football right now is the athletic department and the board of trustees. You know this, and you can tell the listeners whether I'm being truthful or not. I have written for months about D'Antonio and the mood inside the administration that he's leaving at the end of this year. I have written that for months, and again, Coach, you tell me if I'm lying, that there was a lot of people that believed Mark D'Antonio wanted Mike Tressel to succeed him, and that he would wait until after signing day to resign in order to force Michigan State to hire him, similar to what Bob Stoops did with Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma, and Bob Stoops happens to be a friend of D'Antonio. I've written that a couple of large donors have mentioned to me that Bill Beekman has mentioned Mike Tressel to them. Regardless of whether or not they hire Tressel, here is my question for you. As bad as the Spartan football program is in right now, be careful what you wish for. Do you have confidence in the current Michigan State administration to get a coaching hire right? I do not.
Yeah, that is a real tough question. I really don't know. I know there's been certain names bandied about as possibilities for succeeding Coach D'Antonio. At the current status right now, with what we were talking about with the Board of Trustees, the athletic administration, my opinion, being extremely weak, it is a real tenuous situation right now. I would say if someone had the backbone in there to go in right now and to sort things out, they could make a good decision. But right now, it's really up in the air. I don't think so.
Very concerning times for Spartan football and a lot of reasons, not just in the building, but those above it, entrusted to protect it. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly with Spartan football. We'll be back. Ugly with Spartan football. We'll be back. Ugly.